Hey, hey, welcome to your midweek microdose where I talk about things I find funny, fascinating, or potentially life-changing in small, digestible doses. If you don't yet know me well, my name is Kayla Cohn, and I'm a certified clinical hypnotherapist and mindset specialist. And today I want to talk about the habit of overthinking, changing the habit of overthinking, changing the habit of having these obsessive thoughts. So, our ego, our psyche, our mind, our sort of lizard brain, which lives right back here, is in the habit always of protecting us, always of trying to come up with all the different things that could possibly happen and then protect us in one way or another. So when you find yourself waking up in the middle of the night with obsessive thoughts, your head just spinning and you can't get back to sleep, or when you find yourself, driving or doing the things in the shower, whatever it might be, and just obsessing over situations, this is that part of you that is attempting to keep you safe, right? So when we have these thoughts, we are either in the past or in the future. So we are either obsessing over something that we said, something that we did, something that we should have said, something that we should have done that can't be changed now, or we're preparing for the future, a conversation that we might have to have, a maybe we're hoping for a promotion, or maybe we're hoping for something good to happen in our lives, or whatever that might be, or maybe we're afraid of a conversation that we have to have, or something like that. And so that is your mind spinning on all the possible outcomes. I know for me, I spend a lot of time waking up in the middle of the night and then obsessing over, and then if they say this, I'm going to say this, and then if they say that, then I'm going to say that, right? Over a conversation that hasn't even happened, and that there's a really good possibility that maybe it won't happen, or maybe it won't go down the way that you think it's going to go down. So having an awareness that this is happening, and for me, almost like taking a step back and noticing that this is happening. So when you find yourself having those kinds of thoughts, or again, obsessing over something you should have said or should have done or will say or whatever, if you can take a step back, and I imagine this almost in my brain, almost like taking a step back out of a movie. So when I'm having these obsessive thoughts, it's almost like I'm in a movie where I'm visualizing, the person's face, or the scenario that I was in, or whatever. So if you can notice, oh, I'm doing this, I'm having this, I'm in the habit of obsessive thoughts, or whatever you want to call it. For me, it's like I step out of that movie and notice, hang with me here. I notice the me there that's having those thoughts, or having that experience. And then I just notice, and you can kind of almost talk to yourself about it, like, wow, that's really interesting that I'm experiencing that or thinking things that way. Gosh, notice the feeling. It's really interesting that I'm having that feeling in my body, that my heart is racing, that my palms are sweaty, that I'm like clenching my fists, that I'm feeling whatever those feelings are. Gosh, that's really interesting. And you can watch that almost as an observer. So just really, really noticing that, and then letting it kind of flow through. So not placing any judgments, not anything other than just observing, like, wow, that's really interesting. Almost as if you could observe a kid having a tantrum on the floor, like, and how, wow, like, there you are kicking your feet. Wow, there you are. And letting it not be you, letting it, knowing and understanding that you're not your feelings, you are not your thoughts. And something that really brings this home for me always, that also kind of gives me a chuckle, is you have feelings, you have thoughts, but you are not your feelings, you are not your thoughts, much in the same way that you have fingernails, but you are not your fingernails, right? You have them, they are there, but you are not them. So that can kind of give me a chuckle. That's a nice little shot of dopamine too to your brain that can kind of help, snap you out of whatever experience that you're having. So again, the first thing is having this awareness that this is happening, taking this step back in your mind, you physically moving yourself, and you can do that physically with your body, almost taking a step back and going, wow, this is really interesting that my brain is acting this way, that these thoughts are acting this way, not judging, just observing and noticing. And then what you can do is just allow the feeling to pass through. So part of our problem is that these feelings, these emotions need a place to go. So when we obsess about them, we're also weirdly sort of putting up a block. We don't want to feel the discomfort. We don't want to feel the dis-ease that comes with these experiences. And then again, that's that part of our brain, part of our body that's trying to protect us. We don't want to feel pain, which is understandable. But if we can take a moment and allow ourselves to let the feeling move through us, to notice it, to not become a part of it, but to notice it, to breathe into it and relax around it. So the example I gave, where maybe you had a conversation with someone that you think is a real jerk, right? They don't know what they're talking about. Like, what a jerk. How could they say that to me? How could they think that about me or whatever? So to let yourself really dive in, almost swim into that that feeling that really was a jerk, that guy really was a jerk, that gal really was a jerk, or whatever, and let that move through you. Then when it passes through you, not only are you relieved of the experience at the time, but it also doesn't get stuck in there for the future to then pop out at weird times. So you may have had the experience where you have a reaction that's totally outside of the reaction that was called for in the moment, where later on you're like, oh man, I totally exploded over something that was really so silly. That's these old feelings that have been sitting in there wanting to get out. And when they find a moment, because they need to be released, they find that little opportunity and they will explode out. So if you can let these off, almost like you are letting off little bits of steam, kind of the way a teapot does, right? Then when those moments come up, that call for just a small reaction, you can have that small reaction. So just a quick tip here too, for when you are having that experience of overthinking. So let's say you're awake, it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you are just obsessing, maybe you're feeling terrible, maybe you're feeling angry, maybe you feel regret, whatever it might be. Again, remembering that is something that's in the past, it's not happening right now, or it's in the future, it's not happening right now. So one of the ways that you can let your body feel some ease now is by dipping into the current moment. And sometimes that can feel difficult, right? If our emotions are all worked up. So one of the ways that you can do this is to breathe deeply into your belly. And actually, I'll just invite you to do this along with me right now. So as long as you're not driving or people don't need your attention right away, you can take a moment. And the best way to breathe is to breathe deeply into your belly. So your shoulders should move as little as possible and the breath should go right into your belly. So just join me right now and breathe deeply into your belly. I like to breathe through my nose, but you can do it in whatever way is most comfortable for you. So breathe deeply into your belly. And then exhale with a sigh. And then let's do that again. Breathing deeply into your belly. And then exhaling with a sigh. And then one more time, deeply into the belly. And then exhaling with a sigh. And that's the first bit that can begin to bring us down into our body, out of our mind, out of these thoughts, out of these experiences, and just into our bodies. And then I will just invite you, and you can do this with your eyes open, your eyes closed, whatever way you choose is the most powerful way for you. Either way is better. So I'll just invite you to notice 3 things that you can hear. So 3 things you can hear. That may be my voice. That may be your breath. Perhaps you can even hear the sound of your heart beating. That's right. And then I'll just invite you to now notice 3 things that you can feel physically. So that may be the feeling of your back against a surface supporting you. Perhaps that's the feeling of the clothing on your body. That may be the feeling of your fingers just touching each other. Or again, that may be something else entirely. So just noticing those 3 things. And then again, this time you can notice 3 things that you can see. And you can do this with your eyes open or your eyes closed. 3 things that you can see right here, right now, in this moment. I often love to allow my eyes to float up, 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 almost as if I was looking up to, the crown of my head. Some people like to look at the spot, where the ceiling and the wall meet. If your eyes are closed, that may, be a color that you can see way up there now. Good. And then I'll invite you to again breathe deeply into your belly. And then exhale with a sigh. And then think to yourself, and you can say this out loud or in your mind. Say to yourself, I am here and it is good. Thank you so much for joining me. I encourage you to, again, use this anytime that you have the experience where you need to bring yourself, aligned into the present moment. And the more that you do this, the faster you'll train your brain that this is the way you want to be, not that old way that you had been. This is the way that you want to be. And you'll find that it's easier and easier every time to get yourself into this nice centered place. So the moment you find that those thoughts try to go into that old way of being, you'll find yourself immediately taking a nice deep breath, settling into the present moment, and knowing that you are here and it is good. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you try this or when you try this, I would love to hear what the experience is like for you. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day.